weeks of renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Dr. Wael Jarosh described scenes of chaos as the hospital received about 70 injured people in just 10 minutes. 2 died, 3 remain in intensive care.
Sirens wailed across northern Israel early Thursday, sending residents scrambling to bomb shelters as Hezbollah claimed responsibility for rocket fire targeting the region. Naim Venus, a resident of Kiryat Shmona, ran for cover but voiced strong support for Israel's military operations in Lebanon. Tensions remain high in Israel's north, with authorities maintaining strict movement restrictions. The nation escalated airstrikes in Lebanon on Wednesday, stressing that its fight with Hezbollah falls outside the 2-week ceasefire deal recently brokered with Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed Thursday that Israel will continue striking Hezbollah targets with force, precision, and determination. The strikes persisted across southern Lebanon on Thursday morning. The human cost of the conflict continues to mount. Lebanon's health ministry reported that at least 203 people were killed in Wednesday's widespread airstrikes in central Beirut and other areas, with more than 1,000 injured. This marks the deadliest single day since 5 weeks of renewed fighting began between Israel and Hezbollah. While the Israeli military says it is targeting Hezbollah positions, several of the buildings hit during the afternoon rush were in densely populated commercial and residential districts, resulting in significant civilian casualties. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun denounced the attacks as barbaric. Meanwhile, in Kiryat Shmona, residents who have lived under decades of conflict wrestle with fear and resolve. Tony Malul, sitting in a local coffee shop, said, "I really hope our government continues with the issue with Hezbollah and doesn't back down or give up, even if the United States is asking. This matter must be resolved." France's Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot says Israel's latest attacks on Lebanon risk tearing apart the fragile ceasefire recently reached between the U.S. and Iran. Lebanon's health ministry says 203 people were killed in Israeli attacks on Wednesday, the deadliest single day since the fighting reignited more than 5 weeks ago. Over 1,000 were injured, with central Beirut among the hardest hit. Barrett also revealed that European partners are finalizing plans for a mission to escort commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz once fighting subsides. Only a handful of vessels have dared to pass in recent weeks due to threats from Iran and ongoing tensions at sea. And in Tehran, Iran's nuclear chief Mohammad Eslami says something critical must be on the table when Iran sits down with the U.S. for ceasefire talks: Iran's right to enrich uranium. Speaking during commemorations for the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Eslami told reporters it is necessary that the U.S. recognize that right, a topic he claims nobody wants to speak about, despite being central to Iran's 10-point ceasefire proposal. The U.S. and Iran are set to meet this weekend in Islamabad for what could be a pivotal round of diplomacy. Britain's Defense Secretary John Healey has revealed that the UK and Norway quietly mounted a week-long military operation to push back Russian submarines suspected of malign activity in the North Atlantic. A British frigate, surveillance aircraft, and hundreds of personnel tracked a Russian attack submarine and 2 suspected intelligence-gathering subs lurking near critical undersea cables and pipelines. After more than a month of monitoring, the vessels left the area. Haley delivered a blunt message to Moscow.
In the last few weeks, while the eyes of many were trained on the Middle East, the UK, in partnership with Norway and other allies, have responded to increased Russian activity in the Atlantic north of the UK. This operation involved a Russian Akula-class attack submarine and a concurrent deployment of 2 specialist submarines from Gugi. That's Russia's main directorate for deep-sea research. And last November, I outlined how these Gugi units, including the spy ship Yantar, are vessels directed by President Putin to conduct hybrid warfare activities against the UK and our allies, specifically around critical undersea infrastructure.
UK officials say they are focusing attention on Russian movement even as global focus shifts to the Middle East, noting that Russia continues to supply Iran with drone parts and military support. Pakistan has threatened security in its capital as anticipation builds for major U.S.-Iran talks expected later this week. Hundreds of police and paramilitary officers have been deployed around Islamabad and key routes leading to the Red Zone, home to the president, prime minister, embassies and ministries. They have also locked and blocked roads with shipping containers. Our hotel expected to host the delegation is under heavy guard. While Iran has not announced who will lead its team, the White House confirmed U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will head the American delegation alongside Middle East envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Pakistan's Interior Minister Hossein Naqvi met with U.S. Charge d'Affaires Natalie Baker to finalize preparations, promising full security for what he called Pakistan's special guest. The talk could mark a major step, possibly the biggest yet, towards ending the war in the region. Argentina's lower house has approved a deeply divisive bill that rolls back protections for the country's glaciers, a move the Milei government says will unlock billions in mining investment. But one environmental group warned it could endanger vital water reserves. The vote held early Thursday morning passed 137 to 111 after hours of heated debate.
Supporters say the new rules could attract over $30 billion in mining projects over the next decade, mostly in copper, gold, and silver. But outside Congress, anger spilled into the streets. Environmentalists and left-wing groups clashed with police as they accused lawmakers of betraying Argentine citizens. Earlier in the day, Greenpeace activists unfurled a giant banner reading with the inscription, "Deputies, don't betray Argentines. The glacier law is not to be touched." Argentine's original 2010 law banned mining in glaciers and periglacial areas, frozen landscapes that help regulate water supplies. The reform, pushed by President Javier Milei, narrows those protections only to glaciers or landforms that provinces decide have specific hydrological functions. Until provincial authorities complete those assessments, everything listed in the National Glacier Inventory, nearly 17,000 glaciers covering 8,484 square kilometers, remains protected for now. Scientists, however, say this is the worst moment to weaken safeguards. In a letter to lawmakers, glaciologists warn that glaciers are already retreating rapidly due to climate change, contributing to rising sea levels and threatening water access for Argentine's driest regions. They fear the reform could leave entire communities more vulnerable to drought and risk losing water reserves that act as lifelines during critical periods.
And for the first time since the war with Iran began, Israel's Ben Gurion Airport returned to full operations on Thursday, offering relief to tens of thousands of stranded travelers. Inside the departure hall, many passengers described a mix of relief and uncertainty. Eti Dahan, who decided to fly out before any possible resurgence of fighting, says he felt relieved. Eldin Leifa, heading home to New Jersey, said he felt confident he'll be safe despite hearing frequent sirens during his visit. Throughout the conflict, Israel technically kept its airspace open, but heavily restricted flights, limiting takeoffs to 1 per hour and capping passengers at 50 per plane. Now, Israel has joined several regional countries in fully reopening the skies as the ceasefire with Iran appears to be holding. Iran's parliament speaker warned on X that continued Israeli strikes in Lebanon would bring explicit cost and strong responses, underscoring how quickly the situation could shift. And British Airways says it is reshaping its global schedule as tensions in the Middle East continue to disrupt travel and weaken passenger demand. On Thursday, the carrier announced it will cut flights across the Middle East, including permanently dropping Jeddah from its network and scaling back services to Dubai, Doha, Riyadh, and Tel Aviv.
BA will run just one daily flight, each to Dubai, Doha, and Tel Aviv. Flights to Riyadh will also be reduced from 2 a day to 1 beginning mid-May. But the airline isn't grounding those planes. Instead, it's shifting aircraft to routes where demand is growing. BA will add new daily flights to Bengaluru and Nairobi and increase capacity to Delhi and Hyderabad as part of a broader pivot toward Asia and Africa. A spokesperson said the airline is reviewing the situation constantly and has begun contacting affected passengers to offer alternatives. The temporary schedule will remain in place for the entire summer season through October 24, although one of the Dubai services is set to resume slightly earlier on October 16. More than 21,000 flights have been cancelled across the aviation industry after the US-Israeli war against Iran escalated earlier this year. Airspace across the region has become heavily restricted, leaving airlines with fewer, narrower routes and higher operational risk. BA is part of International Airlines Group, one of the world's largest airline groups. The Middle East has become one of the most disrupted aviation corridors globally since late February, forcing carriers to adjust schedules, reroute flights, and absorb significant losses as travelers cancel trips.
We told you earlier that sirens wailed across northern Israel early Thursday, sending residents scrambling to bomb shelters as Hezbollah claimed responsibility for rocket fire targeting the region. Nai Venus, a resident of Kiryat Shmona, ran for cover but voiced strong support for Israel's military operations in Lebanon. Tension remained high in Israel's north, with authorities maintaining strict movement restrictions. The nation escalated airstrikes in Lebanon on Wednesday, stressing that its fight with Hezbollah falls outside the 2-week ceasefire deal recently brokered with Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed Thursday that Israel will continue striking Hezbollah targets with force, precision, and determination. And to other reports now, Iran on Thursday observed the 40th
Residents scrabbling to bomb shelters as Hezbollah claimed responsibility for rocket fire targeting the region. Nai Venus, a resident of Kiryat Shmona, ran for cover but voiced strong support for Israel's military operations in Lebanon. Tensions remain high in Israel's north, with authorities maintaining strict movement restrictions. The nation escalated airstrikes in Lebanon on Wednesday, stressing that its fight with Hezbollah falls outside the 2-week ceasefire deal recently brokered with Iran.
Among stories, Iran on Thursday observed the 40th day of mourning for former Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed at the onset of the Iran war, an event that has reshaped the country's political and military landscape. In Tehran, thousands of mourners dressed in black gathered at Jomeri Islami Square, slowly marching toward the late leader's longtime office in central Tehran. If you just joined us, you're watching the World News on AIT. More stories after this break. Stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content, follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Hello again. We also Iran on Thursday observed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali. John is leader's long-time office in central Tehran.
The procession was solemn, with participants reciting prayers and carrying images of Kaname. State television broadcast similar ceremonies from cities across the country and announced that commemorations would continue late into the night. One of the most striking details is that Kaname's body still has not been buried since his death on February 28, a delay Iranian authorities have not publicly explained. His son, Ayatollah Mojoba Kaname, has since assumed the role of supreme leader, a transition that has drawn both support and controversy within Iran's clerical and political establishment. In Shia Islamic tradition, the 40th day, known as Chehelam, is a major milestone in the mourning process, marking the end of the most intense period of grief. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei died on February 28 during the opening days of the Iran war. Iranian officials have accused Israel of orchestrating the attack. Israel has not commented publicly. Iranian authorities have not given a reason for the unusual delay. In Islamic tradition, burials typically take place within 24 hours. The prolonged wait has fueled speculation about internal disagreements over burial location and security concerns. Ayatollah Mojoba Kaname, long influential behind the scenes, has inherited leadership amid war, regional instability, and domestic tension. His rise marks the first hereditary succession in the Islamic Republic's history. Kaname's death came just as conflict escalated between Iran and Israel, drawing in militias aligned with Tehran and raising fears of a wider regional war. The leadership transition occurred under wartime pressure, complicating Iran's political dynamics.
The United States Department of State has issued an updated travel advisory on Nigeria, maintaining the country at level 3, consider travel. In the advisory released on April 8, 2026, the U.S. government cited ongoing concerns over crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and limited healthcare services in parts of the country. As part of the update, it has also authorized the departure of non-emergency staff and their families from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, citing a deteriorating security environment. The advisory notes that violent crimes, including armed robbery, carjacking, and kidnapping for ransom, remain widespread, with foreign nationals, particularly Americans, frequently targeted. Several states remain under the highest warning level, do not travel. These include Borno, Yobe, and Northern Adamawa for terrorism risk and Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Sokoto, and Zamfara due to banditry, unrest, and kidnapping. In the southern region, states such as Abia, Anambra, Imo, and Rivers, excluding Port Harcourt, were also flagged for rising insecurity and criminal activities. The State Department further warned of possible terrorist attacks in public places, including markets, shopping malls, schools, places of worship, and transportation hubs. It also raised concerns about Nigeria's healthcare system, citing limited access to quality medical services, shortages of essential drugs, and unreliable emergency response. Travelers who must visit Nigeria are urged to remain vigilant, avoid large gatherings, and enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, STEP, for real-time alerts and emergency assistance. The advisory comes as authorities work to contain persistent security challenges across parts of the country. And in politics, the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, says the opposition African Democratic Congress, ADC, has more presence online than on the ground, insisting it lacks the grassroots strength to win any election in 2027. Speaking in Kano, the APC national chairman, Nentawaya Yabwata, accused the ADC of lacking direction and focus, adding that its strategy is largely centered on blaming the ruling party.
I'm confident, like yesterday, that we'll win Kano, we'll win overwhelmingly.
You passed through town?
Now, yes, I was in town because I'm walking around. You know, we're a party that we don't sleep. We don't give an inch to the opposition. We're here to appeal to other factions, other opposition members, to come and support the governor. We are confident they will all come. Kano, this time around, they will be united behind him.
Your impression about the
opposition? ADC. They're on social media. They're on TV. They're on radio. They're not streetwise. They're in the villages. They would have people. Have you seen them organize any rally, any gathering, anywhere discussing about their party?
They're accusing
their manifesto. Their manifesto is APC.
Sure.
Their manifesto is only to accuse APC. They have nothing for Nigerian people. And that's why in all the elections conducted, because they can't talk to the people, they're talking about APC. They don't discuss about what they have. They don't discuss about their candidates. They don't discuss about the people. They don't discuss about even the projects. They can't oppose the good things we are doing.
Well, we'll bring you ADC's reaction to those claims. Let's move on with more stories. Cross River State Governor Senator Bassey Otu is rallying the state's political class and traditional leaders to support renewed efforts to regain its recognition as an oil-producing state. At a strategic engagement with stakeholders in Calabar, the governor framed the campaign as a fight for equity, assuring that his administration is pursuing all necessary avenues to correct what he considers an unjust exclusion.
The state has for years remained outside Nigeria's oil-producing state following boundary dispute and adjustment over offshore oil wells, an issue that has continued to impact its access to derivation revenue. At a stakeholders meeting in Calabar, Governor Bassey Otu said his administration is actively engaging relevant federal institutions to address the situation and reposition the state within the oil-producing framework. He stressed that beyond legal and technical argument, the state case is anchored on fairness and historic reality, insisting that Cross River State coastal identity and proximity to offshore resources cannot be ignored.
Fellow Constituents, I will not work in pretense. We are taking both steps in strengthening our infrastructure, repositioning agriculture, refining education, boosting tourism, deepening our social welfare, and our security is top-notch. Our oil struggle continues, and I assure you, we shall prevail.
The governor used the forum to call for internal cohesion, warning that divisions among political leaders could weaken the state advocacy at a critical stage.
My government did not come to oppose any previous leadership, but to look into the past books. Indeed, I've traveled a long path, extending special hands of fellowship, An honor to my dear predecessors, culminating in a special event where we poured a oil of appreciation on them for allowing me to drink from the cup of wisdom.
While acknowledging different opinions, Governor Tu maintained that the priority remains securing economic justice for the state, urging stakeholders to align behind a common goal. In a message, Ifyok, AIT News, Calabar.
And that's the world news on AIT. Many thanks for staying with us. I'm Hadiza out. Goodbye.